Hi, everybody. This is Kim Griffin from the Mediumship Reading Room. I'm my co-host, Augie, and we are here to welcome today Nancy No Havoc from North Jersey. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And also, Nancy No Havoc happens to be the sister of Janet No Havoc. And people that may not know Janet, a lot of people do. A lot of people took workshops with her as well. She was a former Catholic nun who was a great medium, great tutor, and she founded the Journey Within in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey. So, Nancy, how are you? It's so good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kim. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, you're so glad that you're here, and people are probably chomping on the bit to hear your story. And and I know that you wanted to discuss some things about your sister Janet as well.
Sure.
So tell me, how did you get involved in mediumship?
Well, Janet, Janet and I saw our dead grandfather the very same day when we were little girls. Again, I was Janet's sister. I grew up with her. Um, so Janet is 2 years older than I am. She saw my grandfather during the day. I remember it vividly. And I saw him later that night. And so we had kind of a special relationship. There are five no havoc children. My brother is 14 years older, and we have another sister than me, a sister who's 8 years older than me. Then there's Janet, who's 2 years older, myself, and then I have a younger sister. Janet had no children, but she had a lot of nieces. So Janet and I, through our lives, and if you've read one of her books, you know how dysfunctional our upbringing was, and it was always had a very special connection because we were a little different. And so I've always known that I could see or hear other things, but a lot of dreams, uh, just kind of went with it, as did Janet. But then when my father went bankrupt, the entire family split up, and so I went to live with my best friend's family, and Janet went to live, I think, initially with a friend of, not really a friend, but he was an attorney for my father.
Mhm.
And it wasn't a conventional bankruptcy that one sees today. It was a really, really dysfunctional one where sheriffs showed up, they had guns. I was not home, I was at school. And they threw the family out. We lost everything, and the whole family split up, and it was awful. So I was fortunate to live with that family who took care of me. And Janet then went on to live with different people, and we kind of split up. But then joined back with my mother to live in an apartment several years later. And so because of that, my trajectory went to Wall Street. I went to Wall Street uh, you know, paid my dues, started out as a clerk, then became chief trader and officer of the firm of Shearson Lehman Brothers in
Mm.
running a precious metals desk. During the 80s, I was the only woman, one of the only women running a trading desk. I was very good at math, but
I
I,
have to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your story. You can continue. But when you said precious metal,
yeah.
my husband was a precious metal refiner.
Oh, was he?
Yes,
Okay.
he was. So I just found that interesting. Okay.
Well, yeah, it is. And so, well, precious metals. So I've started out trading, again, as a woman in the 80s, there weren't that many women on Wall Street. And I was given an opportunity like two or three guys later, and I was there
Mm.
competing with guys from, Ivy League firms. But whenever I was given the opportunity, I always did very, very well, using my intuitive skills. And so people call it gut on Wall Street. And so I did the analysis. I was very good at math. But I was one of the youngest vice presidents at the firm. I think I was 23, and then
Wow.
became a corporate officer and was doing very, very well, and used that. But while I was doing that, Janet was finding her way, and I don't know if, I'm just going to intertwine Janet and myself because she is
Sure.
my sister. She it was hard for her because she did not have a loving family that I did growing, going to. And they were devout Christians, born again Christians. The last thing they needed was another kid, another mouth to feed. They weren't that wealthy, but they still took me in, and I was so fortunate. So as I was doing well, and Janet was finding her way. Funny story: when I first turned 18, Janet was working at a bar, at the Owl and Eye. And she got me a job as a waitress there, and I realized I was like, Janet, you've got to get out of here. So I got her another job in an office because she was drinking too much.
Mm,
And she stopped drinking, which was good.
mm,
And anyway, so back and forth, back and forth. Then she became a nun. Um, I sponsored her because I was doing very well. When you go into the convent, you can't have any debt. So I paid off her debt, and she became a nun. And that is where she really, truly honed in on her skills because it was the hours of meditation where
mm.
she began to see things and hear things. And we discussed this back and forth. And at that time, she was dead broke, and she would come visit me up in my home up in the Thousand Islands, and we would practice together. I actually paid and introduced her to her first psychic, and the psychic told her, "You're going to be doing this," and so she was very good even back then. So we would hold hands. She practiced Reiki on me the first time, and I thought, no, you're definitely not Reiki. So that's going back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
And so, but because of where I came from, I didn't want people to know that I could do this. And I never, never, never thought I would be a professional medium. I just didn't want to because, to be honest, people think you're weird. They do. They
Mhm.
think you're just any level of respect that I had was diminished as soon as I came out. But after well, while Janet was still alive, I guess it was I don't know, it was maybe 2012. I like restoring old houses. I had an old house, and I would walk into a room and things would go flying across. I wasn't frightened of them. I heard voices, and I would say, Janet, I think it's time. Because Janet always wanted me to go public. She was saying, why aren't you doing this? Because she thought it was wonderful and
Right.
liberating. And we both had she was a nun. I taught a Bible study from a historic perspective, studying all the differing interpretations of Christianity and the Bible, but putting it into perspective and
Mm,
recognizing the reaction away from organized religions into spiritualism was exciting for Janet. And
mm.
Janet was really truly in love with spiritualism, the SNU, and she felt it an honor to be a representative. And so she wanted me to be part of it. And I was like,
Right.
I had three kids, and I was on certain boards. I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So for years, I took courses with her at the Journey Within. I've known a lot of these people who were tutors there.
Mhm.
They came to my house for dinner. Mavis and Jean were at my house for dinner. Others, I know Brian and Simon, love them. The Inner Quest, they're wonderful. They stood out to me, and they were dear
Yes.
friends of Janet. And still love them and follow them. And I like the way they think. They're deep, deep, deep thinkers. So I started taking courses. Janet still wanted me to come out. No, no, no. And 2 weeks before she went into surgery, and we weren't expecting her to die. I knew she was failing. I knew she was struggling. But we were right here in this room. We had a joint reading. We were sisters. Um, and uh, she looked at me this time, but there was a level of disgust I'd not seen, coming from Janet. And I looked up to Janet. I loved her. She loved me. And this time it was like, why aren't you doing this? And I said, all right, Janet, this time I promise I'll do it. And then she died. So I gave a promise to my sister that I would. And after she died, it was shocking. Like 8 months later, I put up a website, and now I'm doing it professionally. If someone wants a reading, I have my website. I do readings, I do fundraisers, small fundraisers. Um,
Mm,
I'm very fortunate. I have a nice life. I keep my rates low. Janet always said, whatever you do, keep your rates low. You're
Mm,
not in it to make a fortune. And Janet, abhorred ego. So I don't, if I have a good reading, I don't let it go to my head.
right.
And I thank Spirit for, permitting me to have a good reading. And so that's it. That's my story. That's why I'm here.
It's funny that you had talked about, the low rates and, Janet, she never did reviews, meaning she never posted any reviews of her reading.
No,
She
she
was
didn't.
extremely humble that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And anybody, I mean, I don't advertise. Frankly, I don't even know how to work Facebook. I have two Facebook accounts and I don't know how to link them. And, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so
Okay.
confusing. And so, she never touted herself and she was so humble. And, God, I loved her. So but that was a fault. So what I'm trying to do and what I'd like to do, is focus on Janet. Not using her because I could have used her while she was alive,
Right.
but promoting her. For some reason, her books went out of print. They were very popular, and so I am going to, I don't know how to publish books, so I'm going to try and have them republished and recircuited. I see, yeah, I was reading some fellow from India, and he told me he paid $800 for one of her books. I'm like, what? Wow. And so online, there are people like some are 100, some were 200. And so I'm going to
Wow.
republish those books and then focus on Janet because she never, she was so humble. But a lot of that had to do with, just her upbringing.
Right.
People
Right.
were not kind to Janet, in high school when we were young.
Mm,
And I remember it vividly. It hurt her and it hurt me deeply. And I watched her and I would say, Janet, you're a star. And she's like, no, 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 I'm not. And so, but she was wonderful. So here I am. And now I know Janet is, supporting me because I'm doing this because she wanted me
right.
to do it.
Well, I
And
know that when we had a conversation that you wanted to kind of talk about your sister's legacy and you wanted to continue that legacy.
yeah,
But I do have a question, if you don't mind me asking about the publications. You don't have to answer it. But why did they stop the publication?
I don't know. Well, to be honest, and I know there are a lot of, maybe there are some rumors going on. Um, you know, uh, we had, there was five of us, and I have nothing to do with the journey within.
Hmm.
And the journey within was, Janet's sacred place. She was a
Right.
pioneer. It was the first, church in America. She put her heart and soul into it. The Our family, you know, the siblings, Janet's siblings, Janet had no children. She did have a will. My We had some problems with the way the will was being run. And so I know there was a story saying that I wanted to take over the journey within, which I did not. I never did. What I
Mm,
did want to do was promote my sister. So the new director of not new, Janet will have died 3 years ago this month.
mm,
The executrix was Patty Moran, and Patty, my brother and I had some issues with the way the will was handled. And so it's unfortunate, and there's still some answers that are unanswered. Uh,
mm.
but I will be able to represent the family because the books belong to the family and not the journey within.
Okay.
And so I'm going to now pursue like republishing her books. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've asked them for help. They're not giving me any help. I don't know why. Um,
Right.
I could use some help, but
Right.
I don't know why. Anyway, I do know why, but I won't go into it. And there were other issues, and it's too bad. It's just too bad. But I did say on behalf of the family, I'd be honored to represent Janet and help promote Janet, and so that people don't forget about her because she really was a true pioneer. And I am also, after working on Wall Street, I went to work for an antique firm, called Israel SAC. And I went back to NYU and took some courses. And this firm, it's how did I get there? And again, if you use your instincts, and I believe God, I still have a very strong faith in God.
Hmm.
If you use that Christ consciousness, which is within us, and ask for direction, you'll find your way, and your instincts will tell you what's going on. So I ended up being director of operations at one of the finest antique firms in the world. We furnished the White House.
Wow.
The firm, they raised money and designed and developed the State Department rooms, the diplomatic reception rooms, and they had installations at museums. Our pieces went for millions of dollars, so we had to do the research in order to demonstrate that these pieces were authentic and we could offer them for $20 million. But they were going bankrupt, so they needed someone with a financial background. So that's why they brought me in, because I'm thinking, well, why would you want me? Well, they didn't hire anybody. It was a small little firm.
Right.
That's another long story. But um, so when I went to work there, I think I've lost the why I was telling you this story. I know it had to do with Janet. Oh, history. So the one thing that one does, and so since then, I was asked to serve on different boards. The first national historical park in the United States, which is here in Morristown. I helped raise money and design and build a museum with the other board members, not just me. And so, it's a learning experience. And the one thing I do know, based on our library, it's probably second to the Library of Congress, which has
Mm.
all the diaries and letters having to do with the Revolution in early America, and it really is interesting what one can find in just an innocent letter. So, with Janet's, she had a personal computer, and I wanted, they were going to destroy her computer. And as a historian, like, why would you do that? Why would you destroy Janet's computer? And so we had to fight for that, my brother and I, because Janet was working on a third book. So
Now, I'm sorry. Why did they ever answer you? Why were they going to destroy the computer?
No, no. Well, they said there was some proprietary information, but if it's Jen's personal computer, but here I'm telling, I'm just telling the truth,
Sure.
and there's no gossip in this, so this is
Right.
to defray the gossip.
Right.
Um,
Right.
they've, I have a copy of what they got rid of half of it. I haven't even looked at what they've given me. But I don't know. I don't know why they would destroy any part of her computer. And
Hmm.
but as a pioneer, as Janet was, if you look at the Fox sisters, which is what she wanted to focus on, and
Right.
a lot of her attention was to um, spiritualism and the evolution and the history of spiritualism. And so much like our pioneers before us, you don't destroy anything. You have a library and you have people who study that. And I'm certain as the way this is evolving in spiritualism, there are going to be mainstream courses in spiritualism, and there'll be people who want to study the writings of Janet No Havoc. So I just don't know. I don't know. And so we've butt heads with them,
Yeah.
and it was unfortunate, and we're making headway.
Okay, that's good. That's
So
good.
yeah, so I just wanted to clear the air on that, and yeah.
There you go. Your sister, as we had discussed earlier, she was one of my mentors. I studied under her for, from, I don't know, 2009, 2010 to 2014. And I went up there every Monday night, trips down 287, north all the way up there, I say all
The
the way up there.
advanced class, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I was with, I know you know some of the people that I was with and
I
whatnot.
was in the advanced class too after your time, yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you though, she was a breath of fresh air for me because, and again, I kind of like to think I follow her footsteps in the sense where it almost feels like she gave me the license not to put up with any BS as far as mediumship was concerned. What I view as maybe not very kosher at times.
Mhm.
So she was tough. And I think when people talk to me about Janet who didn't know her, they feel like she was like this real cuddly woman that was just embracing and just accepting everybody, and she did accept everybody. I'm not saying that, but she was tough.
Yes, she was. She was. Well, her standards were high.
Yes.
And so, but she was gentle. She didn't think that everyone could be a medium. She believed that everybody had an intuitive gift and that one's focus might be different than mediumship. One might be psychic, one might be, have dreams. One might like, and so she would gently redirect you. And she broke a lot of hearts,
Yeah.
quietly. She would never humiliate people in public. I don't believe I never saw that, but she was tough. She was like, let's get to it. Let's
Right.
just get to it. And so, but she really was. I could be biased, but as far as evidence, I don't think there's anybody that was as good as Janet. She was amazing. She really was amazing.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was really, she was amazing. But I will tell you, as far as I have seen her, because I was in class with her long enough to see her saying to so and so, I'll see you after class.
Yes.
Or yeah, I'm gonna give you a phone call later.
Yep.
So you're right. She wasn't as there's one particular individual that I know calls people out in front of people and embarrasses, people, embarrasses people in front of people, which never a big fan of, which I don't think that's right. I think,
Yeah.
being brutally honest is just brutality. But with Janet, I remember one particular time somebody was called out, like she said, I need to talk to you after class. And that particular person, I don't even, it was a male, and I forget even his name, but he called me the next day, and he was in the class for 2 years at that point. And he had said to me, yeah, Janet told me not to come back. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. And I think there was more of a discussion. And basically, the bottom line was that, she didn't say never come back. She said, when you're ready, you can come back. But in the meantime, you need to work on your ego.
Yeah, she abhorred ego. She did not like ego. Yeah.
Yeah. And she could tell when people need to work on their inner work, if there was some kind of trauma or whatever, that they needed to work on that and not
Yep.
become a medium or not
Yeah.
go any further into their development. You can't do that today. People take so offense to it when
Yeah.
you're honest with them, and you try to do it in a manner which is kind of tender, but they still take it to heart. Now, obviously they would, but then people go on the bandwagon and they're like, that's toxic and that's that and that's that. And I'm like, oh my God. But she was somebody that and Janet didn't care. I mean, when I say she didn't care, she's like, you can hate me, but that's how I like, you can dislike me, that's okay. I need to be true to who I am and
Yes.
what mediumship and spiritualism is. So
Right.
if
Yeah.
that's, bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's right. And so, as far as expectation, there, Janet, we keep our expectations low. I'm not like you have a good reading. The next one might not be as good.
Correct.
Okay, that was a good reading. Let's just, humble ourselves. I remember in the 90s when Janet was in Lilydale, HBO wanted to come in for a movie. And she called me up and she said, well, what do you think? What do you think? And so, like, she was thinking, I don't know. I don't know. I said, well, what does your gut say? What does your instinct say? And she said, no. She said, and it turned out to be a hit piece, I believe. And so she trusted her instinct. And it's not as if, so like when I was trading, and these are the conversations we would have, because so what I did was I took large proprietary positions for the firm in gold because you had to work up from platinum was a smaller book, then silver, and then gold. But gold, I had to deal with central banks and I had to deal with forward, so it's very complicated. But once you commit to a huge position, and so you're going to make a lot of money or you're going to lose a lot of money, and the finance is just, it's just kind of a tangent. So your mind starts to play tricks on you. So right away, as soon as you commit to this position, it'll go against you. And your left brain is saying, you fool, what did you do that for? You're going to lose a lot of money. And so I was accustomed to my left brain attacking my right brain because I took that position. And so if the market went against me, went forward me, went, with me, more often than not, I made money. It would go for me, but I listened to my instinct. I wouldn't listen to my left brain. But with Janet, that's listening to our gut, and Janet and I would discuss that. So listen to your gut, and that's why she turned that down. But getting back to people with egos, she didn't like that. She didn't like that at all. And I mean, to be honest, who does?
Right, right,
And by the way, I know there are some people who I knew who were friends of Janet's. They've been to my house who don't speak to me. I don't know why. But, maybe there's a memo that went out, but I have no idea. And this is not a pity party, but
right, right,
I have no expectations. I'm not Janet. Janet was amazing, but Janet wanted me to do this. And as her little annoying sister by 2 years, and I'm not that little, I'm 66, I'm doing it. And so we'll see where it takes me. But uh, I think I think the arena needs a bit of a reality check because
mm,
it has grown so much, and you have a lot of people out there who are they take a course and then they go off and then they start reading people. And when you're reading people, you're kind of like a therapist almost. These
right.
people are they have such expectation and hope of direction in their lives that you really have to tread carefully. And taking a course and getting a certificate, and certificates are fine, with hours that one has practiced, but it just needs a reality check. There are a lot of people out there who are practicing who I believe shouldn't be. And
Mm,
I'll just say that. Not that I'm better than anybody, and I'm not. Not that I'm Janet, and I'm not. I'm just Janet's sister, which is good. And, in some people's eyes, not so good. But again,
well,
yeah,
um, do they expect you to read like Janet?
no,
Is
no
there
one,
an expectation of that? No?
no, I have repeat people like my readings. So
Yeah.
yeah. And Janet thought I was good and she told me that. So, if Janet thought it, then that's good enough for me.
Oh, good. How did your other siblings and your mom? Because did your mother knew,
Yeah.
obviously, right?
Well, we believe my mother was intuitive, but my mother was very superstitious. And
Okay.
so when Janet and I saw our grandfather, she thought, there was a hex on us. And so although we were siblings, Janet was so we had two older brothers and an older brother and a sister, and they were like an aunt and uncle to Janet, myself, and my younger sister. And so there was the three of us, uh, younger. And so like Janet took care of like she was she was my older sister, but she was just so much more responsible than like she should have been at 2 years older than I. But my mother had it in kind of a psychic way. She had her gut instinct. But they were prisoners of war from
Mm,
Catholic prisoners of war, and they were damaged people. Our family was really damaged, and it still is. It
mm,
is it is dysfunctional and it's sad. It really is sad. So the Janet was the backbone of the family. And when she died, we kind of knew it would just, divide, and it did. So,
mm,
my mother adored Janet. My mother embraced what Janet was doing, and she was very proud of her. And but my mother, I adored my mother as well. She was a lovely woman. Um, yeah. I don't believe any of my other siblings have it. I know my brother doesn't. He has dreams every once in a while. Janet
right.
comes to him in dreams. Um, my other two, I don't think Mary does, and but I don't speak to Irene, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Um, so tell me what is going on with the schoolhouse and
Oh,
also the other church. Because I know that when Janet passed away, there was something to do with another church, a spiritualist church that was in upstate New York, but also the schoolhouse as
well,
well.
I do know that she purchased the church, the Journey Within North, but then she ended up selling that. I have nothing to do
Oh,
with that. You know,
okay.
while Janet was alive, she wanted to have fundraisers here at my home, but then she died, so we never did that. But they had a chapel dedicated to Janet last September,
Oh,
and they finished the schoolhouse. The Journey Within is kind of running that, and they take.
okay.
I have nothing to do with the Journey Within, and
Okay.
so I don't know. But the dedication to the chapel was beautiful, and it has beautiful stained glass, and it was lovely. And I went. That was nice, and it was nice to be there. And I could feel Janet there. And they have a beautiful portrait of Janet and Mavis because Mavis was involved as well. And as far as I see, they're doing a terrific job. I don't know if they have courses. I hope they do. But that was part of her legacy.
And where is the school? That's the schoolhouse that you're talking about,
The
right? Or no?
school, yeah, it's their home was demolished. And so the schoolhouse Janet purchased, I think in 2014, 15, and raised money, a lot of money, and a lot of like these superstar mediums who Janet knew way back when, they helped raise money for it. And she had a few very high-end private collectors, donors. And they did a great job. And I think it was Tom Regenauer, who's a really great guy over at the Journey
Yes.
Within, who was in charge of it. And he's a nice guy,
He is a nice
humble.
guy.
Yeah, and he did a terrific job with the schoolhouse, but I think the town had restrictions on what they can do and what they can't do, when you're developing. And so they had to adhere to whatever the town wanted. And it's beautiful. It's Janet would love it. She would just love it. And they completed her dream, which was a nice thing, a very nice thing. And then after they completed the schoolhouse, they did the chapel. And the chapel is beautiful. It really is beautiful. And Janet
So
was,
it's two separate buildings then.
yes, Janet was a very prayerful person. And it's a
Okay.
wonderful place.
And where is this located?
I think it's Newark, New York. That's the town. It's not too
Okay.
far from Rochester.
Oh, okay. So it's going towards Lilydale.
Yeah, it's way up there. Palmyra. Palmyra.
Okay. Okay. All right. Because when I think upstate, I think like going towards the Adirondacks, but I forgot, Lilydale's like on the other side. So, okay, just so that everybody knows where that's located, and if they wanted to go visit that, they could do that. So what do you think Janet would say about? Because I know she had a lot to say about certain things. What do you think she would say about some of the mediumship or some of the things that are being passed as mediumship now?
I don't know. I can't say that.
Right.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in Janet's mouth.
Right.
I know that
Right.
Janet loves spiritualism. She felt it in her heart. Um, she was a saint, and Janet was a lover of humanity. And so I don't want to say anything negative.
Right. Right.
And because she believed in everybody. She didn't like, bullies. She didn't like
Right.
cockiness. She didn't like people who used people. She didn't like that. And
Right.
so, but Janet was a saint, and she was a lovely person. And I don't know what she would say, to be honest.
Well, I know that there was times where, and I won't bring it up here. I'll bring it up afterwards. That there was a situation in Central Jersey, but another medium was doing something. We'll just say that this is a long time ago. And I had mentioned to her about this. We'll just call it a ceremony thing because I was at one, and she stopped me after class and said, "You were at that?" And I said, "Yeah, I was." And she said, "What did you think about it?" And I was very blunt, and I said, "Well, Janet, I think it's a bunch of," and I said, "BS." And she just went, "Yeah." And she
Right?
said it all. She went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Mm.
She she wouldn't say she like, Janet wouldn't say a bad thing about anyone,
Yeah.
and um, uh, getting back to what I said earlier about the, kind of the estate, that those are facts. I'm not saying a bad thing about
Right.
anyone. It is what it is, and
Right.
that's what happened. And I just wanted to shed light on that because people
Right.
ask me about certain things that have happened, and I'm like, no, I didn't want to take over the journey within, and no, that's not what happened. So, but Janet never said a bad word about anyone, and
No. No.
I look at it from a different perspective because of my business background, and I have a lot of experience, and I see that it's turned into a huge business,
Right.
and I see that people are charging 350, 400, 500, and
Mm.
for half an hour, and I see people are charging for prayers. Like, who charges for a prayer? And I remember Janet saying, if someone calls is charging for a prayer, you don't want to go to them.
Right.
People, no. And so I think it's I can see I had to step back because I see people have poured their hearts into it, and they really do want to do this because of their passion for it
Sure.
to make a living. So I don't begrudge that.
Right.
I am not one of them. I am not trying to make a living out of this.
Right.
I am here. If anybody wants to get a reading, they can go to my website and they can book a reading. And that's that. I'm going to focus on my sister. I was so privileged. I believe it's predestined here. We were predestined to come here on our voyage. And I believe we're here for a reason. And a lot of people go into spiritualism almost to escape from reality.
Mm.
And I think you have to remember we're still here. We still have to, pay our bills, and we're still part of
Right.
society, and there are businesses that have to be run, and we have families. And so I look at it from a different perspective. So
Right.
there's a lot of money being made in spiritualism right now by the courses and these Hollywood productions. And you
Oh
know, I
yeah.
I when I do a video, I just have my iPhone in front of me, and then if I post it, my face was like this or something like
Sure.
that.
I feel you.
Yeah,
But I will say, she was very, for me, this is just a student's perspective. She was very, I don't want to say blunt, but she was blunt, but that might be, yeah, that's not a good choice of words. I would say that she was very direct. She was direct, but there was a lot of compassion behind it.
yeah,
So she
yes.
did understand and she did recognize people with abilities and then may have been in their beginning stages, but she could not have see, intuitively that they could blossom into it. And then if they worked hard at it and they kept up on it, because there was a tons of examples that she would give us, like, she would say that there was one lady, and I forget the details of it, but I think it might have been in somebody in AFC or something that went to circle every week for years and years and didn't get too much information, but she kept at it. And apparently she's a great medium now, or was a great, I don't know who the woman was. So, but she's like I said, she was very encouraging with people to continue their
Oh
journey.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
those were the hours. Those were the hours that
right.
woman didn't give up, and she was committed to it. So
Right.
she spent hours and hours and was committed to it. So the expectation, there is a level of expectation. You go to a few courses and then boom, you're in business. So
Oh, yeah.
that's the expectation I was discussing. But Janet was she was nurturing. She was, oh yeah, and she was tough.
Yeah.
Life was not life was tough on her and me. I worked my ass off to get where I finally ended up.
Right.
And,
Right.
where the work ethic is hard within within Janet and myself. And Janet worked her butt off to do what she did. You know,
Well, yeah. And also, I do believe it's the location as well, because, we're both from New Jersey,
yeah,
which is the most densely populated state in the country, and so there's a lot of people and there's a lot of opinions.
yeah,
And, people from the Northeast are not afraid to voice their opinion.
that's true. That's right. That's
And
right.
they're not. And so she really needed, to have the what do they call it? The proof is in the pudding, So And that's what she did with herself, but also it's something that she passed on to other people,
Yes.
including myself. Like, you need to be detailed, you need to have the evidence, you need to, blah, blah, blah.
Evidence, evidence, evidence.
Evidence,
Yeah.
evidence, evidence. And what do you think? What was her view? Because I'm a big person about the message that I'm like, if I have one, I have one. If I don't, I don't. But what? And I forget. To be honest with you, I forget. What was her view about the message? Was it the message? Is it just in the evidence? What was?
Well, she and I discussed that. That's where we differed. And so I would say, Janet, it's great to have evidence. And like again, she would have evidence like no other. But the people who are the spirits that we're contacting for our sitter, they're here to help them. We're here, we're a vehicle to give a message. So Janet worked on the message, and Janet, she felt the message was important, but it was part of the evidence. But her evidence, her pieces of evidence yeah, they would come out in the message.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, she had a 3-year waiting list. People trusted her.
Oh yeah, I know she had a long waiting
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
I never
So,
even got on it because I'm like, it's never gonna happen, or
so
just being
yeah,
impatient.
she was, yeah. So she was, she was human. She was wonderful. But yeah. So I know that I do see her. I dream of her. But again, it will be 3 years this month since she passed away. And when she died, it was shocking. But I see her in my dreams. I used to see her in my dreams earlier on, and when I would see her, I'd be Janet, and I would wake up, and they're like, "Oh, now I have to get back to sleep." But she does come through in readings, and it's
I
nice
was
to
going
see.
to ask you that too. Does she
Yeah,
come
yeah,
through
she does,
readings?
and
Yeah.
I know, yeah, so she does, and it's always wonderful to see her. And we did have a secret word, that is kind of our code. And
Right.
so I know when it's Janet. Yeah, I know when it's Janet. So I believe in this. I believe it's real. I believe and because when there were a lot of naysayers when Janet was just getting into it, and
Mm,
she got into it to really stop the fortune tellers,
mm,
or uh, to bring attention to the fraudsters out there who were taking advantage of people for money and
right.
swindling. And she did that. And she elevated the arena by being a former nun. There were people who, didn't want to, they thought it was satanic, and there's still a lot of people like that
Right.
thinking that you're playing with the devil, and I don't believe that because God is within me in my own study of the Bible. God's not out here. God and Christ consciousness is in here. And
Mm,
so, but with my sister, she elevated the world, and then there have been other people along the way who are experienced in medicine and the sciences, who've then elevated it a bit higher. And so here we are. But now that we're in the Zoom world, it's getting a little diluted. I just see there are, it's kind of reverting back. So I think we're kind of in a transition period. And if I can explain it, metaphorically. So when I worked at the antique firm, it was in society, in art, in architecture, there are certain periods. And so, metaphorically, there's a Queen Anne period in furniture where the pieces of furniture and art has soft curves. And then the next period is Chippendale, which is highly ornate and detailed and carved and eagles and balls and claws. But in between there, I mean, Queen Anne didn't just stop and Chippendale just didn't start. There's a transitional period where the softer edges had a little more detail, and so you had transitional pieces. So with this Zoom world, where this world of spiritualism is in a transitional period, and so it's acclimating now with AI. You have a lot of people who are really getting to know AI and depending on or having relationships with AI, and I can see that because AI will tell you what you want to hear.
mm,
A good medium, won't tell you what you want to hear. They'll give you facts and pieces of evidence. So there's a lot of convergence. I believe this is my humble opinion that's going on.
Hmm.
And so I bring a different element to
Yeah. Interesting. No, that's interesting. That's great. Okay. So, all right, Nancy. So, where can people find you?
Oh, well, thank you. I have a website, nancynohavoc.com. You can read about me. And I had a calendar up there, but it kept screwing it up. So
Okay.
just email me and ask for a reading. Also, I have a Facebook page, Nancy No Havoc Intuitive. And I put the intuitive on there. I don't know. It's a business page. I don't even know how that worked out. So it is what it is. I can't
Okay.
have friends on that, only followers. But I
Right.
post videos on that, and that's where people can follow me.
Okay, great. Well, it was great talking to you today, Nancy.
Thank you, Kim. The pleasure was mine.
Okay. Well, you have a good afternoon.
Yes, you too.